we've got David Hodgkinson today with us, Deputy Head of Law, also known as Hodgie to most people, including students. He is the most wonderful person in the law school. Absolutely fantastic person, for me anyway, personally. And you are an absolute gift, not only to the DMU, but also the legal world as a whole.
Oh, don't. Who wrote this introduction?
I do want to tell students one thing that they might not know about you, and that is that you absolutely love a holiday by the seaside. Or any holiday where the sea is involved, and maybe one day you'd like to retire by the seaside.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Sea swimming is great. Lots of salt, rough or smooth. I do prefer cool, kind of clear waters. But I've been swimming in the sea over the world, really. I loved it. The most fantastic one was in Egypt, actually. Stayed in Egypt and we went out on a boat trip and they had these Nemo fish that kind of dart around. I'm not kidding, Eleanor. You could look down and it was so clear. You didn't even know the water was there. It was really amazing. Yeah, I love that.
Beautiful. And I can second you on the Egypt one. Snorkeling is mind-blowingly beautiful. You're looking down and there's a whole other world that you didn't know existed. So thank you very much for that. Well, today we're here to talk about how to prepare for advocacy exams. And obviously students want to know everything about it. So my question to you would be, well, why do you think this is important?
Okay, first of all, it's crucially important as a skill. Whether or not a student is going to be a barrister or a solicitor or an advocate whatsoever, doesn't matter. It's a good transferable skill to be able to communicate. I mean, that's what we do as human beings. So to be able to communicate in a legal forum, as it were, very important. It's transferable because advocacy isn't just for the courtroom. You advocate, for example, in work settings or interviews and with your friends. For example, you might have a point you want to get across. So advocacy permeates everything we do. So I feel it's important because it's something which students quite often are worried about. They're anxious, understandably so. But I want to give some key tips about how to prepare and how to beat that anxiety. And I've got to say, because there are advocacy assessments, so we use that exam word, and it's money for old rope. If students follow these tips, they can get really high grades just by being themselves.
Really valuable tips you're going to give us today then.
Yeah, I think so. I really do. Shall I begin by my first key tip, as it were?
Yes, please.
Okay. You have to prepare. You've got to know the brief inside out. Now, what this means is you're presented with a problem. You're presented with a brief. It might be a set of facts, and you'll be told how you are to address those facts. So you might be, for example, prosecuting or defending a criminal matter, or you might be making a hearing, some kind of civil application. But it all comes down to knowing that brief. You have to know it, because if you don't know it, when you go into to do your assessment, or if you went into court, I mean, much as a real life barrister would do, or a solicitor, if they don't know what the brief, then they could be taken by surprise. They won't be able to answer the question. So the first tip is know your brief. But of course, excuse me, that begs the question, how? How are you going to know your brief? And the answer is this: as to advocate, you must fact manage the brief. So you're given this problem and you have to look at it, you have to sit down and work through it. Okay. So you have to understand who are the players, who are the people in the problem question. What is the chronology, for example? When did things happen? because that way you'll start to accommodate and assimilate the information, understand the brief, as it were, know your brief. So who are the players? What is the chronology and what happened? So you've got to know the facts, all right? Students quite often rush to the law. Forget the law. We'll sort that out in a minute, okay? We just want to know the facts. So if I use the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, okay? The facts are probably, we all know them. Goldilocks is lost. She goes into the Three Bears' house. There's nobody's there. Sees the porridge, 3 bowls of porridge. One is too weak, one is too hot, the other one's just right, so she eats it. And so the story develops. She goes up the stairs to bed. One bed's too lumpy, another bed's too hard, the third bed is just right, so she takes a sleep in it, for example. Okay, so they're the facts. So I can recount that, and you can recount facts from your favourite stories because you know them. Really, think of it like getting the facts in a groove, okay? Get into the groove, right? What that means is you have to know it so that you can just talk about it. I often
You
am
mean
invited.
conversationally? You mean
Yeah,
as a
conversationally.
conversation because you know what you're talking about, so you can
Yeah,
weave through the information, not just know it off by heart in that sense,
that's it.
comfortable with the
Yeah,
knowledge of the
yeah.
facts. Mm.
Yeah, and that's a really good thing to say because you don't have to be exact. Now, this is a strange thing. You've got to know the facts, but with regards to those facts, when you're recounting that story, be it to conversationally with as we are, for example, or with a judge or a jury, you might do it a couple of times. You don't have to be exact, but they have to understand. You've got to impart that knowledge. Think
Mm.
of it as being at a party. I've been invited to a couple of parties in my life, not many, because I haven't got many friends, to be honest. I'm never invited to dinner parties. I'm the worst dinner guest ever. But anyway, let's not get into that. Um, and at parties, I always find myself stood in the corner on my own. Well, thanks for your
Okay.
sympathy. Thanks for your sympathy. But I'm stood in the corner on my own. If somebody walks up to me, I could tell them about this. I'm doing this now. I could tell them about how you advocate because it's in my groove. I know where I need to
Mm.
go. I've made a few keynotes. I'm going to follow keynotes just to prompt me on. And
Yes.
I could do this talk tomorrow. It wouldn't be exactly similar, the same. It'd be similar, So yeah,
Yes.
you just got to know it now. So be prepared. Okay. A good mantra to have is this: failing to prepare is preparing to fail.
Good
Simple
one.
as that. We must prepare. Okay, preparation. 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 That's the key. If you want to be the best, if you want to beat the rest, oh, preparation is the key. If you want to be the best advocate in the world,
Woo!
yeah, prepare. Right.
Got prepare.
Now, if you haven't got that by now, you never will.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So you got
It
to
is the
know it.
preparation. Hmm.
Okay, now here's the next bit then, okay? So once you know the facts, you know the people, you know the timeline, you know the story,
Hmm.
now what we've got to do is we've got to move to the law, okay? And so what we're going to do is we're going to have another mantra. We've had the preparation, failing to prepare is preparing to fail mantra. We're now going to have this one, and it's quite simply this: apply the facts to the law and the law to the facts. Always
Hmm.
remember that. That's all you have to do. Don't overcomplicate it. Okay, quite often I find students bring in wild legal principles. We don't want that in advocacy. We want a sound base in the fundamentals. The,
Hmm.
the, the purpose of our advocacy is to persuade, and we persuade people by just simplicity, clear, cogent, concise messages. Now, People listening to this will say, well, you're not really doing that, are you, Hodgie? I mean, you just sung us an awful rendition of preparation, but I bet you remember it. See, it's the clarity. It's about the clarity. It's
Yeah.
about you've got to when you're advocating. I mean, we'll move to the actual skill of it in a minute. We'll deal with that apprehension soon, but you've got to be clear, and we're clear by applying the law to the facts and the facts to the law. It's as simple as that. Now, each law breaks down into separate elements. Okay, so we would have, for example, let's take theft. Let's say we're prosecuting theft. Okay, the law of theft, quite simply, is the dishonest appropriation of property belonging to another with intent to permanently deprive. We've got those 5 areas. So let's say our facts are that a man has gone into a shop and he's put a magazine under his jacket and walked out. Okay. Clearly, we're going to apply the law to that, or just say, is it dishonest? Yeah, because a reasonable person does not go into shops and hide magazines and walk out. So it's easy. So now when we're advocating, ladies and gentlemen, everyone on the jury, may it please your lordship, it is clear that this defendant is dishonest. He hid that magazine. He put it under his arm and left the shop. And I ask you, is that dishonesty? Clearly it is. So boom, we've done it. We don't need to now start messing about, we've done it. And then we go on to the next bit. So apply each element, a single element of the law. Murder, the intentional killing of a human being. There's only 3 things you have to do in a murder trial. Either, you prosecute it, say he intended it, there was a killing, and he killed a human being. Or if you're defending, he didn't intend it. I mean, there might be a death, but, you say, you reverse it, the negative.
Yes.
Dead easy. Do you want to interrupt me?
No, I agree. I agree. And I like how you gave the 2 examples as well. And in a sense, when you're talking about it, it's like the students should think about it in the box ticking approach, which is not what we want necessarily, but that is how it is to to target the law and the elements of the crime. You have to think about that box ticking approach. Because when
Yes.
you're preparing, if you've got that skeleton in your mind, then that's the best way forward. You know that you've done all of them by the time you've, good.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, you just support what you're saying with authority. There's another mantra for it, if you like. It does not matter what you say, as long as you support it with authority. So in my dishonesty point, the judge might say, well, how do we know that's dishonesty then, Mr. Hodgkinson? I'd just say, well, Section 2 of the Theft Act, that doesn't state that states what is not dishonest. Dishonesty comes from the case of Ivy and now Crown against Barton and Booth. Dishonesty is, would the reasonable person say that the defendant was dishonest, Your Honour? It's as simple as that. It's dead easy. It's like a puzzle. Just apply the law to the facts. As long as you know your facts, then you can put your law in. You should apply this to all your assessments, really. But I mean, in an advocacy sense, that's all you do. Know your brief, apply the law to the facts. Job done.
And how do you get over the hurdles of, getting the confidence to do the advocacy exercise, which students find very difficult most of the time? So is that courage that we're trying to, dig out from wherever it might be, because it's difficult for students whether you're in your first year, second or third, or masters for that matter.
Yeah, people say this, don't they? They don't, it's that confidence. Anything with public speaking, for example, or just, standing up in front of a group of people. So I've got quite a lot there. The thing is that there is a nature-nurture theory. Some people think it's in your character and it can't be learned. I totally disagree with that. I think it can. Every single person can advocate, okay? So, some people are going to be more naturally gifted. Take entertainers or people that go on the stage or people that want to go in musicals. I mean, that's a very special kind of person, Da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So they're fine. They're going to be confident. All right. So what we're talking about is We're talking about our everyday person. Well, first of all, if you think about what I just said earlier, if you know your facts, if you know the law you're going to apply, if you're prepared, that's going to instill confidence in you as well. Because if you're prepared, you know what you're going to say.
Yes.
You're far less likely to be taken by surprise. If somebody asks you a question, you'll probably know the answer, so you don't need to be scared of that. A good tip, and I'm going to move to the actual root of your question in a moment, Eleanor, but a good tip is prepare the other side. If you prepare their side of it, again, you're going to be great. You'll know what they're going to say. So let's say you and I were in a in a court hearing together, or in an advocacy assessment. If you and I were going head to head in an advocacy assessment, well, the truth of the matter is, if I prepared what your side, so I knew exactly what you were going to say, again, it's going to build my confidence, because I'll be able to sting you where it hurts. And if you,
Yes.
if I'll because it's about winning. I think that's one thing students need to understand, that we don't care about justice. We're not an inquisitorial system, we're an adversarial system. It's a
Oh,
fight. It's a
true.
fight, simple as that.
Very true.
It's who does best on the day, and you're briefed to win. So
Yes.
simple. I mean, I'm your friend, Eleanor. I really am. Okay. And I think you're great. I do. But trust me, if you and I were if we're in a hearing or an advocacy assessment or anything against each other, I am taking you down, because I
Ditto,
am
Dave.
briefed. Yeah, I'm briefed to
Ditto,
win.
Hodgie. Oh,
There you
yes,
go.
of
There
course.
you
That's
go.
what you do. I mean, it's not us against one another, but it is whoever we're representing. And it is,
Yeah,
we have to act as if we are representing the person, or we are representing ourselves as the person we are representing. So it's nothing to do with us personally. So yes, that's a very good point that you're saying to students. And I like that you touched upon the very crucial bit of, the weaknesses of your arguments. If you build that into your own um, advocacy piece, you know,
yeah,
whatever the case may be, in your case, when you're pleading your case, then you are making your position stronger, because whatever your opposition will say is just, yeah, boring. I've already heard that, from
absolutely.
the first barrister already. So
Right.
yes, cover your
What you've
bases,
raised
Marvin.
there is we've raised a something which advocates do. It's called bring out your dead, or pour fuel on
Mm,
it. You're right. If
yes,
you've got a weak
I
point,
like that.
yeah, bring it out. Bring it straight out.
Yeah.
Let's say he's got a previous conviction, and your opponent's going to work on that at some time. Bring it
Oh
out.
yes.
To the magistrates. Say to the magistrates, he's got a previous conviction. He's held his hand up to those. He served his time. And the reason why I'm telling you about it is because he hasn't done it this time. This is,
Yes.
So yeah, you're right, Eleanor. Bring it all out. So if you're
Mm,
prepared. But actually, from the confidence points of view, don't overscript yourself. Only have keynotes. I mean, actually, quite strange. I don't know if people are watching this very clearly. I've got some keynotes here, okay? But actually, I realise I've only looked at that paper once. I don't even think I looked at it, actually. I was looking at a scratch on my desk, right? So, do you, because I know what I want to say. I know it's there, and you're helping me. You're giving me some prompts and making me think
But that's the
things.
thing, you've already thought about. I think the thought process, very often, I say this to students as well, is the thought process that you're actually putting into whatever it is that you're doing. And the fact that you scribbled a few things on the paper, they stick with you, don't they?
Yeah,
A little
yeah,
bit, at least for a little while. They don't stick with
yeah,
you forever unless you keep looking at them. But if you have made some mental notes about points that you want to cover, those stick with you. So this is why I think, well, in my opinion and in my experience, the way I do it as well is because you've done the work. Had
yeah,
you not done the work, then you would have not started with, step one, step two, step three.
yeah.
Maybe you would have gone back and forth. "Oh, I forgot to say this, but because you've thought about it, and I think
Absolutely.
that's with assessments as well. Plan it out in a
Yes.
skeleton form, and then go into the depths of the points.
Yeah, you're right. You've got a structure then. Follow that. A, B, C, D, not D, B, C, A, for example. Yeah. So follow your structure. And then if that way, yeah, you got your notes, you'll be fine. And I think, you'll develop that confidence. I mean, you can practice, of course, practice it at home. If you have an advocacy assessment coming up, practice it in a mirror. And that sounds mad, but do it to yourself. I know that is really, it
I like
sounds,
that. Yeah.
yeah, it sounds crazy, but it's fine. It's really good. You're going to actually start talking to yourself. Have you ever looked in a mirror, just you on your own, and gone, hello, hello, or hello, hello? Everybody's done it in the mirror. You do that in mirrors. We all do
Yeah. Yeah.
it. Probably at some time. It's like realizing our own sentience,
Mm.
our self is strange. So, or advocate, practice with your family and friends, just practice. And if that way you'll develop your confidence. I have to
Yes.
say, also, nobody's looking at you, nobody really cares. Just stand up and do it.
Mm.
As long as you know what you're saying, they'll be listening to that. And so, they're not going to care how you look or anything like that. What is important, be yourself, don't change your accent, okay? And don't try to speak differently. However, it must be clear. So try to pronounce all the consonants in words. All right.
Mm.
I know as I'm getting older, it's true this, as I get older, I do realize that some of my words are becoming streamed, they're becoming molded. I think it's something that happens as we get older.
Mm.
But try not to do that. So, for example, were I going to stand up in court or in an advocacy assessment, I'm now putting on my advocacy voice. I am thinking about the clarity of the message and I am not rushing. I think this is another good tip. Work out your own time management. Think about what you want to say, but say it clearly and with a metered approach. Because remember, it's all about persuasion.
Mm.
Advocacy itself, when you're on your feet, is not conversational. Because we have, I mean, I'm afraid we can't shy away from this, but there is a spotlight on the advocate. And so, therefore, lean into that spotlight, as it
Mm.
were. I'm just speaking metaphorically. I don't mean this, a light on you, but use that because you've got the power and let that power come through you. And that's going to fill you with confidence to know that you are the one making a difference. Um, People, when I first started, people would give tips to say, take a good couple of deep breaths and meter your first line. So, we all get a bit apprehensive, but that's good. It's good excitement. You don't have to be scared of it. It's your body getting ready for the fight. It's a natural reaction. So give it plenty of oxygen. Stand up and deliver that first line, whatever it might be. Your Honour, my name is Hodgkinson. I appear on behalf of the Crown in this matter, and my learned friend, Mr. Dosey, appears on behalf of the defence. So you meter that line, and then you're rolling. Instantly, you'll forget any worry you've had, and you'll just be doing the job, really.
Yes. Yes. I like that. And I suppose the pacing also is very important because it has to be at a certain pace because clarity comes with that storytelling approach if you can also employ that. I
Yeah,
often have students who I have to tell you have to slow down because we have the mood exercises as well. They have the opportunity to do it before their assessment. And very often they will just be so fast. And the way they
yeah,
timed themselves, the way they did it at home is totally different from the classroom or I suppose the courtroom environment.
yeah.
It something happens that it rushes them. Do you have a tip um, to give the students, I suppose, to just pace themselves? how can they pace themselves? Is there a way of measuring your pace to make sure that you send, you still have that clarity, you still are telling the story in a way that it can be easily followed by your audience?
Yeah, that's a really good thing to say. I'm really pleased you've said that because it's made me think of a couple of areas there.
Mm,
Uh, the tip is practice and prepare, and you'll know what you need to say in the time. And but also consciously slow down now. Because the thing is, if we go too fast, the message can't get across. And I don't know if you listen to any stand-up comedy, for example, or plays and things like that in the theatre, but actually they're a few beats behind normal conversation time. Comedians
mm,
really take their time, actually, because they've got to give the audience time to take in what's being said. So yeah, I think make a conscious decision to just slow it down a little bit. Then you can start with the skills of advocacy. So for
mm,
example, if we slow our voice down and lower our voice a little bit, it really makes people begin to listen. And what that means is you can actually get a jury leaning in, and that
mm,
you know that they're hanging on every word. So yeah, slow your speech down a little bit, but here's the second tip, and this is a biggie. All right. Do not read from a script.
oh
That is,
yes.
yeah, that's the worst thing that we can do. Because first of all, if we read, we go too quickly, and we're
Mm,
not natural. So my mum can read it off a script. I failed loads of students over the years and put in my feedback. My mum could read that because reading off a script is not advocacy. That's why the keynotes are important. So don't read out a verbatim script. That's not that
mm,
that you'll go too fast. You know, I mean, since this is quite an informal podcast that we're having, if I ever find a student reading, what I do is I let them get on with it. I let them get on with it. So let's say they're a couple of paragraphs into their script, and then I
mm,
say, "Oh, excuse me, pause. I want to pause you there," and I ask them a question. Okay, and then they might say, "Well, I'm going to deal with that in a minute," and because I know it's coming, I say, "No, deal with it now." So I get them
mm,
off the script, or I say, "Oh, I want to go back. A few moments ago, you said X, Y, Z. I want to
mm,
please explain what you mean there." So I get them off that script, and you can tell they're squabbling, like they're on their notes. They're like, where is it on this one? Where am I?
yeah,
Put the script down, people.
yes.
Okay, advocate. Do you need a script to tell me the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears? No,
Mm,
we could just do it on our feet now. And so if we
yeah.
add the law to it, you know, she was a burglar. She committed burglary, Section 9. She went into the house as a trespasser, entered a
Yeah.
building, committed theft,
Yes.
criminal damage. I think she sat on a chair, and didn't she? The one chair was too big, one was too small, one was just right. But she sat on it and broke it, didn't she? Something like
Yeah.
that. Anyway, let's
Mm,
let's fit her up for it, even if she didn't break it. So criminal damage,
mm,
simple criminal damage, etc. What is property? So we can add the law, but we know the story. So yeah,
yes.
make a conscious decision to slow down.
Truth
Not
is,
really
if you,
slow. Like you want to go
yeah.
like lip smacking, thirst quenching, like that. I mean, no good with it. You want to go like not too fast, like lip smacking, thirst quenching, ace chasing, motivating, good buzzing, cold talking, alcohol, fast, never getting cool as a Pepsi. That's no good. You want to just meter it.
Yes.
Lip smacking, thirst quenching,
Yes.
ace tasting, motivating, good buzzing, cool talking, high walking, fast living, ever giving, cool fizzing, to dosey. There, that it gets the message across.
Yes, exactly. And if it's not clear, I think what Lady Set Hale was saying the same thing, wasn't she? Clear message,
Yeah,
but the projection as well. I think that if we can touch upon that as the last thing, um, the projection of your voice. Obviously, if you're in a classroom and you're quite close to the your tutor or your examiner, whoever they may be, or you're in a similar room, but your audience is further out and you need to project your voice, then you do need to adjust to the room, the environment, to know how far does my voice need to travel. So clarity, but also projection of your voice. You don't need to shout, obviously, but you do need to make sure that the person at the back can hear what you're saying rather than starting to whisper like this to yourself. I can't hear you, Hodgie.
Well, that's the thing, you see. That's the point. You've got to speak up, haven't you? You see, that's the whole point. Yeah.
Very
So
good.
because if you don't, then people can't hear you. So yeah, but not too mad, but you've got to make sure that you can be heard. I know we're on time. I just want to say one final thing, if I may. You prompted me with Lady Hale. What I think as well, and most advocates would agree with this, be fearless. Be fearless. Do it. Just get in there and do it and have a good time. You know what? You'll be great. Just advocate and be fearless.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you very much for this, Hodgie. It was a pleasure. I really do hope that students enjoy it as much as I did. I am grateful for your time, and I know we're going to do another one. So, students, stay tuned. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did.
Yeah, well, thanks.
Um,
I
and look,
appreciate your thanks, Eleanor, but it's your money I want, especially if I'm to do another one.
I've got nothing in my pocket. Do you take plastic?
Of course.
All right, I'm going to stop now. Thank you very much, everyone,
Thank you.
for
Bye.
listening and for tuning in. Bye bye.